Good evening, this is George from Ireland. Welcome, dear viewers. So this video is about the International School of Bucharest, where I worked some years ago. I had a temporary contract and I did not ask to renew it. So ISB has got a few superb teachers and some wonderful pupils, good facilities. But the thing that they don't tell you is who actually runs it. It's the Gülen Foundation, which is a Turkish Islamic organization. Now, I do not object to a religious body running a school, but they ought to be honest about what they are, and parents have a right to know who's running the school. The Gülen Foundation has been outlawed in Turkey, where it was set up, because they attempted to overthrow the government. So they're promoting a conservative religious agenda, which might be laudable, but in some ways is anti-pedagogical. So homosexuality can't be mentioned. Israel doesn't even exist, so the children are taught Christianity is a lie. Bear in mind they're teaching religious studies, things of that nature. So people can't say anything about sort of modern lifestyle, about unmarried couples living together, and people mustn't mention that alcohol exists or things like that. So Gülen is a dodgy organisation, as I pointed out, and their prayer rooms upstairs. I don't object to people being observant Muslims, but this particular lot are not very reputable. And about a third of the teaching staff are Turkish, and about a third of all the staff, everyone, cleaners, cooks, are Turkish. Now, it's absolutely fine to have Turkish people working in EU countries if they're there legally, but often these people are there illegally, coming in on tourist visas, and Gülen organising coaches to go back and forth to Istanbul every couple of months so they stay within the tourist visa period. About a third of the teachers are from other countries, and about a third of them are Romanian. The Romanian teachers tend to be the best because they're well paid by Romanian standards, and the other teachers are usually Anglophones. So there really is no quality control on those who are brought in through Gülen. And if you're in Gülen, you're in there for life. And they own about a dozen schools in Romania, and anyone who's dreadful and has been moved to another school, and they just move them around without rhyme or reason, and they promote people who are completely out of their depth, simply because they haven't been a member of the Gülen Foundation. So someone would be an ordinary teacher, never been a head of department, and then get to be headmaster for 1 year, and then move them, and just keep chopping and changing people who are particularly young or poorly qualified. There were a couple of outstanding Turkish teachers, but I'm afraid most of them were dreadful, and it's not their nationality. Imagine if you couldn't lose your job. If you could turn up late, if you could be grossly incompetent, utterly dishonest, if you could be abusive to the pupils, and still get away with it, and they do. Well, there was a case, Mr. Ersoy, I don't mind naming and shaming, a science teacher, seemed faintly deranged, who really badly hurt an Indian girl's arm in a lesson. I don't know the exact circumstances, but she was not a badly behaved pupil at all. I don't know why he chose to injure her arm, and he was not dismissed for it. And there were lots of things like that. All the products bought by the school were Turkish. Now, it's absolutely fine to buy Turkish products, but they seem to preference this over anything else, which might be better quality or cheaper. The uniforms, the food, the water, everything you can name. So the results were dreadful. And there were a few bright pupils and there were a few hard-working ones. That was good, but because they were incompetently taught and the school had no idea what they were doing. And some of the teachers meant to be teaching through English barely spoke English. There were some teachers who were only there to teach Turkish and could only speak Turkish. Fine. Don't object to that. But they kept changing the staff as well. There was a very high turnover. My timetable changed every month I was there, and I mean literally every month, because people kept leaving. So there was permanent chaos, and there was terrible mismanagement like that. And also giving absurdly high grades. If somebody didn't hand in a piece of work, they must be given 10%. And we argued about this till we're blue in the face. Us Western teachers, they get zero, they do zero work. No, they get 10%. That was the rule. And effectively, the starting point was 90% for the grades yet to award. It was all in percentages. And it completely didn't reflect the work they were doing. They wanted absurdly high grades. That was bad for everyone. The high flyers thought they were absolutely perfect and didn't achieve as much as they should, didn't push themselves further. The average ones thought they were outstanding when they were average. And then the weaker ones thought they were at least satisfactory, when that's not true and problems were not addressed. Most pupils had English as an additional language, and there was very little special educational needs provision, no child psychologists, things like that. So it's dreadful. They didn't check the People's Criminal Record Bureau background. Someone could have had serious convictions for crimes against children, and the school would have been none the wiser. So there were loads of things like that. They didn't expel violent pupils. One girl waited in the laboratory for another one and very badly assaulted her, pulled her hair out, so this victim was bleeding from the scalp, and this child was not expelled because she was from a prominent family. So there were several more incidents like that, and Turkish people were the master race. Now, I had some delightful Turkish pupils. I'm not anti-Turkish whatsoever, but people shouldn't be treated better or worse because of their nationality. There are other things we weren't to mention. Armenia, for example, or Cyprus all belong to Turkey, according to the school. So I thought that was all very negative, and there was no academic integrity in the way people were taught. So because of this revolution en permanence, the school was very chaotic like that. And the school failed COBIS inspection, and the COBIS report, that's the Council of British International Schools, said that the grades were dreadful, and that's true. On average, pupils failed every subject except for Turkish. We're doing GCSEs under the old system, whereas a C was considered a pass. The average grade was D in most subjects except Turkish. In all subjects except Turkish. Now it's gone to a numerical system. So that's what was so dreadful, and people were paying through the nose for it, and I had some delightful pupils, and I've got nothing against the pupils. Obviously, there's a range of ability and a range of behaviour like that. And things were completely informal, and the disciplinary system was dysfunctional as well. They were given red cards if they're bad, and after so many they're supposed to have a detention, but that wasn't enforced, and people simply got away with it, and some people simply strolled out of the school in the middle of the day and also got away with that. So that was a problem as well. They're using the school facilities for other things like religious activities on the weekend. Again, I don't object to that, but the school should at least be upfront about what it's doing and the purpose behind it, which is obviously promoting this Islamic ideology. So that was that. And I had some good times there. I remember some of my pupils and some of my colleagues fondly. However, I cannot recommend ISB. It doesn't provide a decent education, and it certainly doesn't have any integrity.